I never thought I'd be writing this story, but here I am, sharing how my 20-year marriage fell apart. It still feels unreal when I think about it, but I guess life rarely goes as planned. My husband and I met during our college days in Portland. I was studying fine arts while he was pursuing his business degree. We met at this tiny coffee shop near campus, a place that became our special spot. It wasn't anything fancy, just a quiet corner where students would come to study. I remember being so surprised when he asked to share my table that rainy afternoon. I was just sitting there working on some sketches when he walked up with his coffee. Back then, I was this shy art student who barely dated anyone. He was this confident, smart guy who everyone seemed to like. I couldn't believe someone like him would be interested in someone like me. We clicked right away. We shared similar tastes in music, loved talking about books, and dreamed about traveling the world together. He had this way of making me feel special, and before I knew it, we were spending all our free time together. What started as coffee shop meetings turned into late-night study sessions and walks around campus. After graduation, we got married and built our life together. He climbed the corporate ladder while I pursued my art, though not as actively as I'd hoped. We didn't have kids, but we were happy, or at least I thought we were. I was so proud of him, watching him succeed in his career. He was always well-dressed in his suits, heading off to important meetings. I supported him through everything, believing we were a team. Things changed when Renee joined his company as his business partner. She was about 35, brilliant at what she did, and quickly became an important part of the business. When I met her at a company party, we hit it off immediately. We shared stories, laughed together, and soon became close friends. Or that's what I thought back then. Looking back, I should have noticed the signs. My husband started working longer hours after Renee joined. Whenever I asked who he was working with, he never mentioned her name. Sometimes I'd drive by his office and see her car there, so I'd call him. He'd always answer and say they were just working on some project, giving me a specific time he'd be home. He never missed those times, which I later found out was part of his careful planning. I checked his personal phone, but found nothing suspicious. His work phone was off-limits due to confidentiality agreements. What really started bothering me was how Renee would always have an excuse when I invited her over for wine and cheese nights, while my husband was supposedly traveling alone for work. She'd either be sick or visiting family in another city. Our relationship started changing too. He seemed distant, and when I brought up how I felt neglected, he'd get defensive and blame it on work stress. One night, after another argument about him spending more time at work than at home, he packed a bag and left. That's when everything started unraveling. The next morning, I had this feeling I knew where he'd be. Instead of going to his office, I drove straight to Renee's apartment. Just as I expected, I found his car parked a block away, trying to be discreet. I parked right behind it and walked to her building, recording everything on my phone. When I rang her doorbell, there was silence at first, then some noise from upstairs. Renee opened the door wearing just an oversized t-shirt and shorts, her hair messy. She acted surprised to see me, asking why I thought my husband would be there. I didn't wait for her permission. I walked right in. Her living room had 2 coffee cups on the table. When I went upstairs to her bedroom, there he was, sitting on her bed in his underwear, looking shocked. He tried the "it's not what it looks like" excuse, saying he had nowhere else to go. Renee kept telling me to leave, but I was done listening to either of them. I told him not to come home and that I'd pack his things. He followed me down the street in his underwear, trying to grab me, begging me to listen. I just told him it was over. 20 years of marriage, and this is what he did with it. I had given up so much of myself to support his dreams, and this was my reward. Since he worked in corporate law, we had many lawyer friends. Luckily, most of them liked me better, especially since he'd burned some bridges lately. I didn't waste time. I called the best divorce lawyer I knew. We never signed a prenup, because we started with nothing. I helped build everything we had, and I wasn't going to let him walk away with all of it. I blocked his number after he kept calling nonstop. My friend Tasha helped me pack his stuff and dropped it at Renee's place. His car wasn't there anymore. A few days later, Renee showed up at my house. I watched her through my security camera as she tried to explain herself. I started recording and gave her 2 minutes before I'd call the police. That's when she dropped the real bomb. She admitted they'd been sleeping together since shortly after she joined the company. But here's the twist. She recently caught him with another woman during his Los Angeles business trip. She'd gone to his hotel room to see him, only to hear him with someone else. The next night, she saw them together at a bar. When I asked why she was telling me all this, she revealed that he'd been using his work email to send explicit messages to this other woman. She looked genuinely upset as she told me how he'd pursued her when she first started working there. They'd been celebrating a big win, had some drinks, and one thing led to another. She said she became friends with me to keep me from suspecting anything, but then actually started liking me as a friend, which made her feel guilty, though not guilty enough to stop seeing my husband. I couldn't take any more and told her to leave. Then I called him and said I knew everything. He started sending desperate messages, claiming Renee was lying because of some business lawsuit, trying to blackmail him. I just sent him a photo of the blonde from the bar and stopped responding. Later I found out there was more drama happening behind the scenes. Apparently, my husband had tried to end things with Renee because I was getting suspicious. When she wouldn't accept that, he tried to force her out of the business. That's when things got really messy. She sued him, and he countersued. Renee knew his schedule for the next few months and followed him to Los Angeles. That's how she caught him with the other woman. I guess she couldn't really hurt him until she got me involved. She knew I could take half of everything, and that's exactly what I did. The whole thing turned into this complicated legal battle. Since I had stayed with him through everything, helped build his career, and even owned shares in his company, I had rights to a lot more than he expected. My lawyer made sure I got what I deserved: the house in Portland, half of our investments, and my share in the company. Now I'm learning about all the business stuff I let him handle before. It's complicated, but I'm figuring it out. The best part is that I finally have time to focus on my art. My friend runs a gallery downtown, and I'm getting ready to show my work there in the next few weeks. It's something I've wanted to do for years, but never had the chance. Sometimes I sit in my studio and think about how different my life is now. 20 years is a long time to spend with someone, and starting over wasn't easy. But I'm doing better than I expected. I've reconnected with old friends, made new ones, and I'm actually enjoying my independence. I'm not angry anymore, just disappointed. He threw away 2 decades of marriage for what? A series of affairs that blew up in his face. Renee lost her position in the company after the lawsuit mess, and from what I heard, the blonde from Los Angeles disappeared once things got complicated. The funny thing is, I never wanted to be rich or successful. I just wanted to make art and have a happy marriage. Now I have the freedom to do my art, and I'm actually doing pretty well financially. It's not the life I planned, but maybe it's the life I should have had all along. Last week, I finished a painting that I'm really proud of. It's going to be the centerpiece of my show. When I look at it, I see all the emotions I've gone through, the pain, the anger, but also the hope and freedom. I titled it New Beginnings because that's what this is. People keep asking if I'll ever date again. Right now, I'm just enjoying being by myself. I'm rediscovering who I am without having to be someone's wife. I'm learning to trust my instincts more. They were right all along, I just chose not to listen. Yesterday, I got an invitation to a gallery opening in Seattle. 2 years ago, I would have turned it down because my husband had some business dinner or meeting. Now, I'm booking my flight and looking forward to meeting other artists. This is my life now, making decisions for myself, following my passion, and not apologizing for taking up space. I don't know what the future holds, but for the first time in a long time, I'm actually excited to find out. Sure, this isn't how I thought my life would turn out, but sometimes the best things happen when our plans fall apart. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this story, please hit that subscribe button to help us reach our goal of 1,000 subscribers. Don't forget to give it a thumbs up and share it with friends or family who might enjoy it too. Your support means a lot. And if you have any thoughts, questions, or story ideas, drop them in the comments below. I'd love to hear from you. See you in the next story.